Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Beyer, your host of Addiction Voices of Hope, heard here on WNPQ 95.9 The Light. Addiction Voices of Hope is presented by this month's sponsor, the Phoenix Recovery Support Services, and the other fine sponsors that we have, which is Quest Recovery and Prevention Services, Malone University, and What's Up Ohio, an online magazine. Welcome today our special guest, WiL Singleton. He is a counselor and author. Good afternoon, Will.
Hi.
What are you a counselor of?
I do addictions and relationships.
Relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have a really bad relationship, you can come in and fix it, or does it have to deal with relationship and addiction?
You know, almost always it starts off with an addiction, and then I get the spouse to come in, or the parents to come in, or just anyone who has been struggling with the communication with their loved one. Now lately, I've been getting people who don't have so much as a current addiction. They've had past addictions, but they never learn how to communicate in a functional way with the person that they love the most.
Well, how do you communicate with someone that is addicted to alcohol or drugs? I mean, there's really not a good way to communicate.
When they're currently in their addiction?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
do you have a lot of those coming in where they're currently in their addiction?
I have a lot of both. I have
Okay.
both. And the first thing I look at is the fact that they came in.
Okay.
I don't just call it quits and say you got to get sober before you can do anything, because they're already in the relationship. So it's a lot of teaching realistic expectations for both of them.
Okay.
I mean, we have to call it what it is. We're already in a dysfunctional relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to kind of lower our expectations and kind of start back from the beginning on communication, because we're both seeing things differently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people who are sober see things differently. I mean, that's why there
Mm-hmm.
are all these books on men and women, and then we throw in alcohol and drugs.
Mm-hmm.
No wonder we're, killing each other.
Mm-hmm. I could have went somewhere with that, but I think I'll just leave that. Now, can you rebuild a relationship with your children? If you've been in addiction only half of their life, so they know a life before addiction, and you've been in addiction 6 years at the age of them being 12, and now they're 16, and you're all better.
Mm-hmm.
So you're thinking, and you expect everyone in your life to think, be on the same page as you, and that doesn't necessarily happen, does it?
No, and that goes along with the expectations. It's kind of like we fell out of time, and like our parents. My mom still sees me as little Willie.
You don't look too little. You look like you're standing 6 foot tall there. You look like Will Chamberlain.
She'll still try to talk for me if I go to the doctors. I mean, it's just a habit, So if we've been in a mode or a phase that has been for quite a while, we have to give anyone who's been around us, whether it's family members or a spouse, time to transition out of it, because for us it seems like forever.
Mm-hmm.
But for them, it's like an eye blink. We go away to recovery and we go to counseling, and then we come back and hey, I'm good, and they're like, whoa, just yesterday you stole a car.
Right.
And so it's like I said, you have to have realistic expectations and give them the grace to feel their regret and voice it a little bit. I mean, we put them through a lot of crazy stuff. I know with my wife, we're not together right now, but she still struggles with listening to the alarms from the ambulance or whatever.
Oh.
Because she used to always wonder if it was the boys. And we don't think that.
What do you mean the boys?
Because my boys were in trouble.
Oh, okay.
They got into a lot of trouble, and so she would even listen to the police scanner. And she still did it when they were out of jail.
Oh.
And I said, these are just the habits that the victims of what we do go through that we don't even think about.
Right.
We're just thinking, hey, I'm better. Where's my hug?
So you're in recovery as well?
Yes.
And what was your drug of choice?
Pills and alcohol.
Pills and alcohol. Never touched the heroin, it never went that far. What made you stop?
Actually, what really made me stop was I ended up in a really good church.
Really?
Yeah. I didn't find the meetings till later.
That's funny.
I mean, it is kind of, I tell people I went backwards in as far as the steps. But I ended up with an incredible church and pastor where you could actually be real.
Mm-hmm.
And you could actually talk about things and no holds barred, kind of like your radio show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is so necessary.
Mm-hmm.
A place where you feel safe.
Mm-hmm. I try to make everyone feel that way
Mm-hmm.
and open up. And so tell me about your addiction. Yeah, we're going to put you on the spot here. Talk about it.
What do you want to know? I mean,
I want to know what your addiction was like. Who did you hurt along the way? What did you lose along the way? Give us a little bit of a background here. What made you go into counseling? Because we know there was something.
I was always in counseling. And I was in my addiction in counseling. I didn't know I was addicted.
Really?
You know, you know how fearless we are in the beginning. You know,
Yeah.
we can do everything, and you know, we get like 2 hours sleep, and you know, it was to the point where the core of my addiction was depression.
Okay.
You know, and I believe everybody has a core issue that is supporting and feeding the results of that. You know that, and I believe that's why. So the core of my addiction was depression. So I would do anything to get out of that feeling.
All right.
So whether it was women, drugs, alcohol, I had horrible sleeping.
Mm-hmm.
And my doctor gave me sleeping pills.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I was a big guy, and I would take one at first, and then I would take a couple, and then he said, well, that's not working, because I grew a tolerance, which I didn't know anything about.
Right.
And he said, well, you should take a glass of wine with it.
Oh.
Yeah, and this is so far back, you know, because no doctor would say that now. At least I
true.
hope no doctor
Yeah,
would say that now.
You would hope not.
But that was it, you know, and I didn't realize I wasn't sleeping. I was blacking out, you know, because I would drink a bottle. I mean, and I was so, I mean, when I discovered that, you know, I could get alcohol at an actual liquor store instead of the grocery store, you know, and oh, what, it's more than 5% proof? What?
Yeah.
You know, and the basic math of any good addict is I can get drunk faster.
Yes. Yes, it is.
You know, it's like the fast food lane, you know, and yeah. And I never drank outside, you know. I just thought it was just for sleeping, but I started going to bed earlier and earlier.
Wow.
You know, and I would have to take no-dose to wake up.
Oh.
You know, because you know, I'm stupid. I'm running around at night with women, you know, getting my party on, you know, getting to bed at like 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Then I'd set my alarm to wake up at 4:30 to start taking my, you know, actually yellow jackets. You remember those?
Vaguely.
They were at the truck drivers used to take it.
Okay, I vaguely remember those.
Yeah, I would pop those, and I don't remember eating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd grab whatever, you know, Cheetos, whatever burger, you know, so everything was jacked up. You know, my nutrition, my sleep, my self-image. So, you know, I was great, you know, great at just self-loathing and running from it.
So what made you, and that is the core. Mm-hmm. We don't love ourselves. And that's why I always tell everyone, just if you start by loving yourself first, perhaps everything else will just start to fall into place. Do you believe that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. But that's such a foreign concept.
Right.
You know, to love ourselves, you know.
Well, that music means we have to go take a short break.
Okay.
And we have some fine sponsors that you'll be listening to their little commercials. And when we come back, we'll be talking to Will a little bit more about his addiction and what he does. And Will wrote a book. We'll be right back. You were listening to Michelle Beyer, host of Addiction, Voices of Hope, here on 95.9 WNPQ, The Light. Welcome back to Addiction, Voices of Hope. I am your host, Michelle Beyer, here on WNPQ 95.9 The Light. When we left, we were talking about addiction with Will, his addiction. Will, what made you single? I mean, well, I guess essentially it did make you single, didn't it? I'm reading, your last name's Singleton, single, yeah.
Okay.
So, Will, what made you single? When did you stop? Was it when you decided to go to church? Tell us the timeline here.
Okay, the timeline, was 1997, I believe. Yeah. And the reason I'm not exact is because it was such a process, because I'm very picky about, when I actually stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And not so much that I stopped drinking, but I actually started living.
Okay.
Because I would stop, because I was more like a binge person.
Uh-huh.
So that was so hard for me to even understand that, I had an addiction because, how we compare.
Right.
I wasn't like the guy who's throwing up on himself and, had 20, DUIs, so
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a problem.
Right.
But I really was aware of the depression because I was so moody. And I remember, my family, my mom, mentioning, and I remember she said one day at family reunion, "Can you be as patient with your family as you are with your clients?" And I was like, "Oh."
So you were a counselor before.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you
was.
didn't get into counseling because you were in an addiction.
Mm-hmm.
You got into it because that was your profession.
Yeah.
So here you are as a counselor, and it's one of those heal thyself type deals.
Well, I wasn't originally in the addictions field. I was working with teens.
Okay. Oh.
Doing case management, and I ran an independent living skills group right here in Canton.
Okay.
When I moved to Delaware, it was a long road, but I ended up in the addictions field.
Okay.
And it's funny because I'd already been technically sober.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But I was a dry drunk. I was just dry on everything. I was just grumpy, working a lot, angry,
Mm-hmm.
and depressed still. And it wasn't until I started listening to the people I was counseling, about, changing their life. I'm a great motivator,
Mm-hmm.
and I would talk about that, and I'd start listening to stories, and I'm like, huh, that's like me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
light bulb.
Yeah, it was crazy. So as I delved deeper into learning to love myself, I discovered a lot of traits of what I was doing, and my own triggers were. Because counselors, well, anybody who's in some sort of leadership position sometimes has a lot of blind spots to their own stuff.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed that. I've noticed that a lot.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example of, and you can help us out and let us understand exactly what you do. So if someone needs to get your help, they can do that as well. My son and daughter, my son was, I believe, 11 years old when I started drinking,
Mm-hmm.
and my daughter was 7. And before that, I was PTO Betty Crocker.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect little mom. They had the perfect dad, the perfect life. Everything was perfect to them, although it was not perfect to myself,
Mm-hmm.
which is why I was out there. I was looking for attention, and I was doing whatever I was doing. I did a lot to my kids. I went out drinking all the time. I left them with babysitters. I left them alone. I left my son to babysit his sister and cook dinner, and he tortured her. He would lock her into the closet, duct tape her. He couldn't stand listening to her mouth. He holds the most resentment towards me,
Mm-hmm.
and he will not go see a counselor. He doesn't believe in them because I sent him to one
Mm-hmm.
when he was younger, and that counselor ended up being my friend. And that didn't work out too well when he's spending the night at his counselor's house because mommy went out drinking.
Yeah.
So how I want him to be healed. I want him to love me again like I was his mommy. He's now going to be 21 in July. He doesn't need his mommy, but I want my baby boy back because I was missing, I've missed 10 years of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would you say to someone like myself coming in to see you?
First of all, anyone who has that much resentment towards someone, it's because they have strong feelings. Well, I'm not afraid of something that I don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm afraid because I do love you, and I'm scared to let you get close and hurt me again.
Oh, as my tears start to fill my eyes.
A lot of the relationship building that I do with people is pretty much the biblical aspect of, no greater law other than the love. And the problem is, because of our own insecurities, and I mean, which, every great addict has,
Yes.
we fall apart at the first sign of rejection.
Right.
And if you think about people as have you ever dealt with a abused animal, like a dog?
No. No.
Okay, well, they first will not come to you because
Okay.
they're scared of you, and they hide in the corner, and you have to lay food out and just kind of be patient and kind of coax them to you.
I've laid food out to my son. It still doesn't work.
You can't stop. No one, and I've been doing this a long time, no one can withstand consistent love.
Oh.
No one. I have not met the person. See, the problem is we quit.
Right.
We back off because we get hurt. Because we're addicts. We are allergic to pain.
Mm-hmm.
Our addiction has trained us to think we can't handle pain.
Right. I don't want to handle it. I've handled enough.
But you handled it. Anything we've gone through, we shouldn't be afraid of.
True. But I'm afraid of rejection as well. And when I go and try and hug my son and he backs off, I just want to hug my baby again. What do I do? What do I say? How do I cope?
You say, I'm still going to wait there for you to hug me. I am never going to stop loving you.
He'll walk away from me.
That's fine. I'm still going to love you. You can't run away from my love. You can only physically remove yourself.
And I had my daughter on the show
Mm-hmm.
a couple weeks ago, and she pretty much told everybody out there in the world that she thinks of me as her stepmom and not as a real mom anymore. And she's 17, she'll be 18 in October, and she said, I don't need a mother.
I had a young man I was working with about 4 or 5 years ago, and his family had literally cut him off. We hear about that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Had nothing to do with him. Wouldn't correspond, nothing. And I said, I want you to start writing them letters, just to let them know how you're doing. And I don't want you to stop. And mind you, my time frame is never God's time frame.
Mm-hmm.
I thought we were going to have to wear them down for the next 2 years.
Right.
Later that year, it was probably about 8 months, they invited him over Thanksgiving.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah.
Really?
See, once people know I'm not going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to love you no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
My pastor, who was really my best counselor, said, you need to love the devil right out of him.
That's interesting. I like that.
And it's just an utter relentlessness. And see, it's easier when it's our kids. When we're kind of dating or we're with somebody, we're like, I'm going to give you so much because, I'm tired.
Right. I'm done with you.
Yeah, but these are our babies.
Mm-hmm. These are my babies.
That's right. And you're never going anywhere. I am never going to give up. I am never going to stop loving you. I'm never going to stop sending you cards.
Okay. That's something to look forward to. I mean, so many of us, like you said earlier, we expect them to say, oh, you're better now. Okay, well, let's resume where we left off. And it's many years later, and you can't always pick up where you left off because they're several years older, and you're both in different places, and it is very hard.
We just really have to embrace the confidence that's there, that God, there's no way we can go through what we went through and still be scared of the past. There's just no way. It's us in total denial.
Right.
How am I afraid of rejection? I've been rejected.
Many, many, many times.
Many times.
Well, we've got to take a short break here, and you are listening to Addiction Voices of Hope. I am your host, Michelle Beyer, here on WNPQ 95.9 The Light. Please like us on Facebook. And if you want to learn more about WiL, you can go to my website, addictionvoicesofhope.com, or if you'd like to sponsor, you can also go to the webpage and find that. If you are in need of help, please, I beg you to go to that to my website, and you will find all the information you need, whether it's counselors, in-house rehab, outhouse rehab. But you will find all your answers on my website, addictionvoicesofhope.com. Welcome back to Addiction Voices of Hope. I am your host, Michelle Beyer, heard here on WNPQ 95.9 The Light. When we left, we were talking with WiL Singleton. Wow, first I'm calling you single. Why you got single? Now, I can't even say your last name. WiL Singleton. He is a counselor and an author. What are you an author of? What was your book?
I started out writing for the Cape Gazette. And it's one of the talents. It's a newspaper in Lewis, Delaware, actually.
Okay.
And they helped me get back one of the things that I thought I'd lost, which is writing. I love to write.
Mm-hmm.
And, I just felt the urge to write kind of like a daily devotion for people who want to change. So I put together kind of a manuscript for the first 30 days, just to kind of encourage people to come out of depression or self-loathing or alcohol or drugs. And there are a lot of just real life stories, sort of like what I do right now when I write for the newspaper.
Okay. So your book is it purchased on web or bookstores?
Amazon.com, and it's called The Desert of Addictions.
The Desert of Addictions. Take us a little bit into that book. Tell me a little bit. Give us a little synopsis of this book.
Oh, man.
I like to put people on the spot. That's what I do.
I can only tell you what people have said about it. That it really hits the core of our belief about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We spend a lot of time faking it.
Right.
And we do that even in sobriety.
I was just going to say, I still fake it.
And it really kind of gets to people to really kind of take a look at their heart and, start really, really believing in themselves.
That's really hard to do, though. If you've been told, I always refer back to Pretty Woman, Julia Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
If you're told the bad stuff, it's easier to believe, and if you believe it, I don't even remember. I can't even quote her anymore. But it's easier to believe the bad stuff, and it takes a long time to try and believe in the good. Why is that? Why is it so much easier for us to believe we're horrible, ugly, whatever?
I almost think it's just because we're lazy.
Oh.
It's anything is hard.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Raising our kids.
A relationship with Jesus.
Weight, a relationship with Jesus. Forgiving ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Forgiving others.
Yeah. It's so much easier to forgive others than to forgive ourselves.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Although, do we really ever forgive others? I mean, that is really kind of hard to do, too. You always hold a little piece of that back, and when they upset you again, you're like, well, do you remember when?
Well, part of the reason is because we haven't really forgiven ourselves. If I'm still holding my own debt and can't forgive it, you're out of luck.
Okay.
So all those characters, all those characteristics, all those things that really mean something are hard.
They are.
And it's supposed to be. We were designed to handle challenges. I just don't think we see it anymore. We look for the shortcut.
Yeah, but that shortcut never works for me.
Nope. But we keep looking for it.
I do. I want to look for the shortcut to having a life of, my own place, because I'm still not there. Mm-hmm. I still don't have my own place. I'm 4 years sober, and I'm still working on my life, and it's hard work.
Yeah.
And I see a counselor. I see two. because I'm not an easy case. You know, but well, if someone wants to be counseled by you, how would they go about doing that? Because you're in Maryland or Delaware, you said.
Hillsborough, Delaware. You know, I have some people that I see long distance who will either do a phone session or we Skype.
And what is Skype for those that do not know it? Because I don't really know what Skype. I've heard of it, but I don't know what it is.
It's like it's a video. It's, you know, through my computer. You can see me on the computer. I can see you.
Okay, sort of like that FaceTime on your phone.
Yeah, kind of just like that.
Do you have FaceTime on your phone? Can they FaceTime you if it's easier?
I'll have to get it.
Oh, okay. So, and are you covered by insurance? Can they give you an insurance?
I'm covered by some insurances in Millsboro, Delaware. I am not sure about other places. You know, I haven't worked with them yet, but the majority of my clients pay out of pocket.
Do they?
Yeah.
Because you're that good.
I don't know if I'm that good, but
well, you gave me some great insights about my son and my daughter, and not to give up, because I tend to walk away and say, well, forget you then. You know, why should I keep trying? And I'm not going to apologize anymore for what I've done. I said I was sorry. I mean it. I'm proven that I'm at least 4 years sober, that I am trying. And, you know, secretly they are proud of me, because they both kind of underlyingly said that. But so you can help. I see the light.
You got to believe you're good for them, and you are.
How do you know I am? I mean, how do I know I'm good for them? I mean, I can't even mother them anymore. They don't want to be mothered. What's the next step?
My grandson, who I love to death, he's all in my book. His father spent most of his early years in jail, and yet he still missed him. You know, and never really spent time with him. He still missed him. Spends tons of time with him now. Loves him. Couldn't wait to have some sort of relationship with him. And you would think he'd be a stranger,
right?
But there's something biological about parents and their kids, and just knowing that my mom loves me is powerful, whether I talk to her or not.
Right.
Because not everybody gets that. You know, not everybody gets that. Some parents, you know, just I hate to use the word evil, but
right.
You know.
Well, that's just the thing. I've seen where kids have grown up with addictive parents, and they forgive them much easier than someone like my son and my daughter, who had what they consider the perfect life, and then got thrown into the addiction, and now expect to, you know, come out of it and be happy-go-lucky family again. They're not as easily accepting as those who have always had that and grown up in the addiction. Do you see that? Is that common?
So, it's kind of tricky. Sometimes we live in the reparations instead of the relationship, and it creates a whole different dynamic. If I continue to apologize to you, it's because, you know, I still feel guilty and still feel ashamed.
Right.
If I come to you because I know I'm worth it and I have something that I'll value, it's a whole different relationship.
Okay. Well, that music, Will, I'm sorry, it has to come to an end. What's that song? Anyway, you've been listening to Addiction, Voices of Hope, and that is all the time that we have today. My name is Michelle Beyer. You know, remember that addiction does affect all of us, all the people around us, and there is help out there. And you can go to Will's website when you go to mine through addictionvoicesofhope.com. You could also be a sponsor. There's many, many different things you can find on my website. It is a porthole of everything. So again, my name is Michelle Beyer. You've been listening to Addiction, Voices of Hope. And please join us next week. Once again, have a blessed day and love yourself first.